أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن سادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this week's edition of the Black Imams Roundtable. Alhamdulillah. So you know what we usually ask of you all. Come on in here, share, like, and hurry up. We got a good conversation for y'all coming up, inshallah. So come on in, tag your friends, post it on your timeline, and let's get to it. You know, there's a phrase that's kind of popular. Say, let's get to that. Alhamdulillah. Before we jump right into it and we give you all a chance to come in and do what we requested of you, you know, we always, we all agreed here that we would support ourselves, and we request all of you to support ourselves, by contributing at least $10 each. And that's very light. That's simple. The ways that you can do that are in the comments. Maybe Imam Amin could put it on the screen real quick. We accept all of those good payments. Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, all of it. Alhamdulillah. As Imam Faheem would say, drop that bread. Let's get the logistics out of the way so we can get to why we're really here. Alhamdulillah. So I'm not going to have a long introduction. I just want to welcome our guest, Dr. Shadee Al Masry. Alhamdulillah. He is a scholar, a student of knowledge. He has studied in many places such as Fez, Morocco. His studies has taken him to Yemen, Mecca, Medina, the UK. He's been a lot of places. But alhamdulillah, he's a scholar in residence and director of education and community affairs at the New Brunswick Islamic Center in New Jersey. And he is also the founder and head of the Safina Society, an institution that is dedicated to traditional Islamic education in the West. And we have him as our guest today. And alhamdulillah, just a little joke real quick, right? This is the Black Imams Roundtable, right? Mm-hmm. But you see, we have our guest with us. So, some of our best friends ain't black, and, there's a lot of people that listen to us and watch us, but they watch us through translators. We have international audience, right? Nice. So sometimes you make a joke, the joke doesn't come over good enough. So you have to explain the joke, which kind of takes away from the joke. Right? Yeah. But back in the day, well, not always back in the day, even right now, like sometimes when white people would be accused of being racist towards black people, their way of denying that racism was like, no, I can't be racist. Some of my best friends are black.
Yep. But where are they? Right? I've known you for 20 years.
Alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, we are glad to have you here. And inshallah, I will pass the microphone to Imam Amin so that we can get right into it. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah.
Alhamdulillah.
You're muted, Imam.
Must mean it wasn't meant for me to talk. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa afdalu salati wa atamu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'una وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجه الكريم. let me start off with saying to all of you and our beloved brother, friend, colleague, guest, soldier, what more? Dr. Shadee Al Masry, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for having me on.
Always a pleasure. And inshallah ta'ala, we're going to jump right in because we value our time and the time that we have, and we want to maximize the opportunity to dialogue. Oftentimes on the Black Imams Roundtable, we usually have only African American speakers normally, not all the time. Yeah. We've had many different guests. So I think you might be number 4, 5, or 6, somewhere around there that's not actually African American. But in reality, you African American because Egypt is actually in Africa.
So, it's a barzakh. Egypt is a barzakh. All of North Africa is the barzakh.
When I was studying in Egypt, so I come home, they're like, "You ever been studied in Africa?" And subconsciously not thinking, I would say no. They said, "I thought you said you studied in Egypt."
I mean, some of these places cross over both.
Right.
You know, once you go down to Aswan, which is in Egypt, right, you're starting to get into Sudan territory.
Right.
Right. And Sudan is fully in both. They're fully Arabic speakers and fully considered in Africa. So yeah, I
guess you don't fit, but you are African American too, right now. So look, with the thing we wanted to talk about tonight was the etiquette of ikhtilaaf, the etiquette of difference of opinion, which is different from al-khilaf. And we can talk about al-farq bayn al-ikhtilaaf wal-khilaf. There is a difference. But nevertheless, one of the things over the last couple of weeks, we've had many different guests trying to see how we can find insaf in all the things we do, some fairness and a straight path to cooperation without compromise. I like to say it that way. How do we cooperate and not compromise our principles? As the Al-Tasawwuf, the people of Sufism, they said, the one who compromises his principles for himself or another will never get a scent of sincerity.
SubhanAllah.
It will never be really truthful, because one of the most beautiful things we see, and this is a long lead up to my first question, that people often feel, and that's a perception, not necessarily reality, that I have to compromise how I am to get along with someone who's not like me.
Correct. Yep.
And this is, this is not insaf, right? In fact, this is a form of ghulu. You know what I mean? This is a form of excessiveness and extremism. So I wanted to talk about that. But before we get to that, could you give us a brief background of 2 manners of studying, which you did both, because you are a PhD. You also studied the traditional route. So you're perfect for this type of discussion. So my first question to you, through your brief biography, then tell us about these 2 various approaches. And take your time, don't feel rushed, but try to give us much information about yourself so we can understand the context.
Sure thing. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, Allahumma salli wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. So when I came to discover shuyukh for the first time, I was about 13 years old. So I immediately gravitated to it. I liked it. But I never thought, what would studying it be like? Right. So then there was a little bit of a gap. And, people go through middle school and high school. And then there was another group of people. This time they were American born. And so I saw how they studied. And it was random. It wasn't programs. It was going to people's homes and studying, right? But the focal point was the book, not the program. The book and the person. So that's a clear distinction between, let's say, academic studies and even now there are so many programs. People expect to study in a program, but for a long time there was maybe the Syrian Jama Abi Nur program that people were going to, or they were going to the University of Medina. But outside of that, there was a lot of studying going on because some people can't go to these two programs, so they ended up studying a book with a person. And that was the first thing, that's like, whether I realized that or not, but that's the main differentiation between traditional study and academic study. So I started to go with these individuals, these groups, and I loved it. And then I wanted to actually study. So told my parents I don't want to do college. So they said, well, what are you going to do? Azhar? It's a bit chaotic. Egypt was a bit chaotic. Or are you going to do? So we had a friend in Mecca. My mother, at one point, a long time ago, she worked in Mecca. She had a colleague there. That man went up to be the minister of health in Mecca. So he could pull whatever strings he wanted. So within a few phone calls, he got me accepted into Al-Qura University in Mecca. Now, my parents are thinking a bit academically about it. So when they went to, we went down south. Do you remember back in Washington, D.C., there was the Mahad?
Yes.
And there was a Tunisian man there. And he took our family in, and he told us about the Mahad, and then the Al-Qura University. We told him we got accepted. Here's the letter. And then my dad was like, okay, so let's say he gets 4 years here. Then he comes back, does a PhD. And he said, no, sorry, they're not going to recognize it. Western schools will not recognize it. Okay. He said, okay, what happens if he goes to Azhar? He said, no, they don't recognize each other. Right. So then my dad was like, well, what's the point then? All right. So, so the man told us, he said, let me give you honest advice. Just go for a regular bachelor's degree at Rutgers, and every summer go to a different program or with shiyukh and study in the summertime. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Well, I'll do that. And my parents liked that idea. That was a safer idea. Because you have to realize, back in the day, we're talking 1997, 1998. It wasn't.
By the way, let me stop you.
Yeah.
1997 is not back in the day.
Technologically and information-wise. Yeah, I mean.
I'm messing with you. Go ahead.
With tech and information, right? It's not like today, where I can pick up with very small effort. Within a week, I can have so much information about a program. Well, we didn't have that, right? So if I was going to go the next year, I was going to go on very little information, right? Very little context. So we ended up doing what the man said, taking that advice. And that ended up taking me to Morocco one summer, Mecca, Medina one summer, at Hadramaut, Yemen, and Egypt. Each one for the minimum was 1 month program. That was the minimum. Then there was Egypt was longer, Mecca and Medina was the summer, and Hadramaut was a little between 1 and 2 months. But the point is that you got a flavor of each without there actually being a difference in the manhaj. Because you see this traditional world, it's more about people than it is about degrees. So you sit in a class, that sheikh and those students, they all are connected to somebody who's connected to somebody. And it's very quickly, you're involved in a network, right? And so that was that world that I got into. Now, I ended up also doing this PhD. And one thing that really is unsettling, and I still hold this position, is that the PhD, when it comes to Islamic study, academia, it brings an innovation, a dangerous, dangerous innovation. And that is the separation between knowledge and action. That's the whole summary of it. You're studying Islam like you're studying a cadaver, like you're studying a dead body. Whereas in the traditional way, you're not studying, it's almost more like you're cooking food to eat it right now. This lesson is not a lesson just to look at and throw away or analyze to death. This lesson is like a food, a meal that we're cooking that we're going to eat right away. And you're going to show it to other people to eat it. So it's in real life, connected to real life, not abstract and cut away from it. So when I was in England, I went to as few graduate seminars as possible. And before that, I did the master's at George Washington University, and there I discovered the perennialists. Sayyid Hussein Nasr was the head teacher there of the Islamic department, and we had a lot of mutual respect. I mean, I was just a student, but I respected him, and he was very cordial with me and helped me out a lot, and we had a good relation. But halfway through, I realized that obviously he's on a different aqidah completely. He has total different beliefs about salvation, about the whole frame of religion. It's not about salvation for them. It's about enlightenment, right? So, but nonetheless, you know, he's doing his thing. We're doing our thing. These two don't meet, but we have some respect for each other. And my whole thing was with him. A master's dissertation on Sayyid Muhammad al-Alawi al-Maliki, 50 pages on his works. And that was a good excuse to go to spend in Mecca the summer of 2002 at a Sayyid's house every day between Maghrib and Isha at his house. And funny thing was that I had a letter from Al-Habib Ali as my reference. So I get there and a guy opens a little window in the door, and I show him the letter and I said, I'm here to study with Sayyid for the summer. And he said, oh, you're probably a spy. So he closed the window. And I was like totally devastated, because you got the summer, every day means something. So I was totally devastated. So I don't know what to do, right? I don't know who to call, because again, it's not the same. You don't have mobile phones. You could just text everybody and see who knows who. I end up, 3 days pass. I still don't meet the Sayyid. I end up meeting an Uzbeki man, and we're chit-chatting. And he says, oh, our family and the Maliki family, we go way back. Let me take you myself. So he gets there, bangs on the door, yells at the guy, storms in with me, and sits me down right in front of the Sayyid. And that poor Indonesian student who had kicked me out, he got such a tongue lashing. Okay. And from that point on, at least I had gotten the Sheikh's attention. All right. So he would bring me up. My job was, he'd give me a book. My job was to read it all day and then come back with the questions that I had. Okay, because it was an academic dissertation. So now, when I wanted to do the PhD, I did it on Imam al-Haddad for the same reason, so I could just drown myself in his books. The PhD teaches you how to write, how to be organized, how to be systematic, how to make sure you prove everything. But let me tell you, if you were to write a book in the traditional science, they teach you the same thing, right? They teach you the same exact thing. You have to reference everything. Your logic has to be sound. Your sources have to be sound, etc. Right? And so I'm of the position that, yeah, maybe you can benefit from the PhD in Islamic studies, but you are suffering a dichotomy. You are separating knowledge from action. Okay, and treating Islam like it's a dead body that has no actual reality in the world.
Quick question. What was you went to Rutgers?
Yeah.
What was your major in Rutgers?
So I was preparing at Rutgers to do a PhD in Islamic studies. And so I ended up in Falsafa and world religions, which is basically nothing, I would say.
I mean, so
nothing. Just wasting my parents' money.
When they give you the bachelor's, what is it? Bachelor's of what?
Yeah, bachelor's in it was philosophy, sociology, and world religions.
Okay, now you go to your masters, why did you select Sayyid Muhammad Alawi and Maliki rahmatullah alayh? I know you said that gave you an opportunity. Was there a specific aim that you had in choosing such an illustrious scholar?
It was the advice that Habib Ali, if you remember, that Habib Ali came to the United States twice in a row. On the second time was 9/11. And he got stuck. And so he was stuck for about 2 weeks. Remember, there was like no flights were leaving, especially Washington, D.C. So he's in Northern Virginia. I'm literally living in Washington, D.C. I'm driving down every day, take class, drive down, spend the whole day in the Sidki household where he was staying. And so when it came time for me to do my master's, I asked him his advice. And he said, you either do it on Al-Habib Ahmad Shur al-Haddad, Al-Habib Abdul Qadir al-Saqaf, or Sayyid Muhammad al-Alawi al-Maliki. So Sayyid Habib Ahmad Shur al-Haddad, he's passed away. Al-Habib Abdul Qadir al-Saqaf was no longer speaking. He was paralyzed and no longer speaking. The one who was alive and had the most literature, most writings, was Sayyid Muhammad al-Alawi al-Maliki. And so I selected him just as an excuse to sit with him.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And it
was the first few months. The PhD advisor says, well, the first thing you have to do is gather all material about him. So that was the easy part, was the 10 books that he has. But I had contacted Dr. Mustafa al-Badawi, and he said, no, there's 2 other things you have to get. You have to get his autobiography or biography, which was written by Ahmad bin Zayn al-Habashi. Okay. And you have to get his letters, the compiled letters of Imam al-Haddad, then you'll be ready.
Oh, so you're talking about Tathbit al-Fuad.
Tathbit al-Fuad.
Yeah, that's Habib Muhammad bin Sumayt.
Okay, so but a lot of the narration.
Imam al-Haddad, yes, and he was the main student of Habib Ahmed bin Zayn al-Habashi. Yeah. So
okay.
And the other one, Mukatabat, right?
Yep.
Okay. We want to say.
Yep. Tathbit al-Fuad is like what you just said. The main narrator is Habib Ahmed bin Zayn al-Habashi, and then there's the letters. So the Tathbit al-Fuad was like this big. The letters were like this big. I had to go to Jeddah to get it from him. Right? So I got these 2 books. I had to go and get them reprinted and rebound. Okay? And then I came back with a pile of books this big, pretty much. And then my day consisted of waking up in the morning, getting one of these books to the SOAS library, and with a pencil. And the guy said, don't even take too many notes. Just read the first time. So I read that corpus of work cover to cover in the span of a few months in the SOAS library. And it was like a dim library, and had computer stations. Back in the day, you had computer stations. And so that's what I did for about 3-4 months. Okay. And then I had to read. Then the next progression was you have to read everything about the history, everything written about Yemen. You got to know the history of Yemen and Hadramaut. So then get another pile of book. Just read all that. Then I had little jobs in the evening. I would do little jobs here and there just to earn some extra cash. Then the third thing is now you have to read all the tafsir on da'wah, the word da'wah in the Quran. Then all the shuruhat on the word da'wah in hadith. Do you remember way back there was like a CD-ROM and you could search hadith on that? So that had just come out. And so then you had to read all the linguistic lexicon, the linguistic meaning of da'wah, because the thesis was da'wah in the work of Imam al-Haddad. So I learned a lot doing that. And I had a really good advisor. His name was Gavin Picken. He's a Muslim from Scotland who focuses on al-Hadith al-Muhasibi, and he teaches in the Emirates. Right, so he's the one who basically gave me the tartib. He said, all right, do this. When you're done, come back to me. Do this. When you're done, come back to me. And he was really good.
MashaAllah. Okay, while we on this, do any of y'all, Imam, Faheem, or Imam, have a question on this, the studies, the thing, before I go to another question?
No, I don't have anything. I just want to greet Dr. Shadee. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Imam Faheem.
Good to
How are
see you,
you?
man. I'm great, man. Alhamdulillah. Glad you can make it on.
Alhamdulillah, my pleasure.
Now you got to think of something before we get off the air because you showed up late. That's your late fee.
What is it? Well, late fee? Yeah, I got you. You know, as long as I owe you, you know, you never be broke.
Okay, so now let me ask you a question. So you talked about both aspects of study.
Yeah.
Now we have going to the topic, the etiquette of ikhtilaaf, and how should we move collectively. You have this difference of approach between academia and the studies. And oftentimes we have huge clashes over these issues. So, and you may find, and I know you've been doing it on your Nothing But Facts from the Safina Society podcast, which you should put the link there if you can. You know how to work this stuff. If you can put the link so people will know to where you do your podcast. We'll talk about it later in more detail. You often are dealing with that, both aspects, and the effects of one on a person over another. And one probably the most famous in that that difference would be Yasser Qadi, Dr. Yasser Qadi, and that's a lot of talking about as an example of the clash between the two. So how would you say that the one who is pursuing university higher studies, and now we have the Islamic seminaries, which almost is the same, right? As opposed to the traditional bit talaqi min afwah al-ulama, like this going back and sitting at the feet and directing from the al-kitab wa sheikh, bisanad, that type of book, teacher, chain of narration. How do you join the two? Because you've obviously experienced it and avoid.
Prophet's heritage is not for you're interested, right? So I viewed it extremely negatively from the start. And I still view it quite negatively because this is the premise. When I worked there, it cemented exactly what I said. Right? Because when I worked there were me, there were other people. Even Yasser Qadi was there when I worked there. Okay? I was teaching at Arabic at Yale, and he was finishing up his PhD. Okay? So I attended the same seminars he attended, but maybe at different times. Like we didn't cross paths in the seminar. There was a guy there was a Greek guy. What was his name? He was a Greek. Skipped my mind. But he would do seminars for the graduate students, the advanced graduate students, and even the professors, because he was such a veteran. And in the very first seminar, I said, let me attend. It's like 8 p.m. We're sitting there, and he takes out some manuscripts, photocopies, passing them around. And the man is literally mocking hadith. He's making fun of it. So, anta adu, no discussion. And this is the top people at Yale, right? So I didn't go in there with any hesitation to say that it's something to be avoided. And so the seminars in London, I attended one. You're supposed to attend these graduate seminars, right? And you'd be cozy with the professor and go to his house and all that stuff. I attended one. Luckily, my advisor, it's not luckily that she was sick, but she was unwell, healthy. She was not healthy. So she couldn't check up on me as much and couldn't really reel me in. Actually, she was happier the less meetings we had. That's a ni'mah from Allah, right? And she herself was somebody who had entered Islam and then left Islam. She was a convert and then left Islam. Who am I taking knowledge from? I'm taking knowledge of how not to be. That's the knowledge. How not to be. And so if there's ever going to be a gathering between the two, it's going to be stuff like what Dar al-Qasim is doing. Right? It's basically saying, yeah, if you want, I mean, what are the ulama in the past? What is academia? It's ensuring you cite facts and your logic is sound. But what academia now has another meaning, which is really, we have to say, Western naturalistic academia. Naturalistic academia is basically nothing really exists except this. Revelation, prophethood cannot exist. That's the premise. It cannot exist. The moment you say, yes, it can exist, and actually it does exist, they sort of laugh you out of the room. So I don't see much tawafuq, unless you're going to just write an writing academically to me just means citing your facts, referencing, and making sure the logic is sound.
So, okay, that's higher education within the Western context, as far as universities. But I find that now Muslims, and most of those Muslims who run these Islamic seminaries, they are products, most of them often, of that same Western university mindset, and they're trying to do it. So it's still the concept. Have you observed the Islamic seminaries in America and observed, is that a reflection of the same mentality with Islamic covering, or is it a unique way of joining between the two? And how close is that to the tradition that you talked about? Because maybe many won't know, but those scholars that you mentioned, the ones that you did your, PhD and master's degree on, these are like mountains in the context of traditional Islam. Sayyid Muhammad Alawi al-Maliki, rahimahullah, and Sayyid al-Imam al-Haddad, these are like the elite of the elite in each generation. If I wanted to give a context, it is like they in their time were like Imam al-Nawawi in his time, or Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar in his time. We're not making a comparison of the degree of knowledge necessarily, but the status is for sure, no doubt. Especially when you mention Al-Habib Abdul Qadir bin Ahmed Saqaf or Habib Ahmed Mashhur al-Haddad, you're talking about the elite of the elite. So you got experience in this. Now let's put the Islamic seminary, and what does that look like?
When the Islamic seminary, if it's trying to mimic, is trying to sort of get approval from academia, it's lost the plot from the start. And therefore mimicking it in any way, shape, and form, my personal opinion, is completely, as they would say in England, completely lost the plot. Because that set of that whole tradition, whatever is good in it already exists in our tradition. Okay, whatever and the premise of that tradition is, I already mentioned one, naturalism. Nothing actually really exists. The claim that it exists is there. You see the difference? But nothing actually really exists except this stuff it's naturalism. Number two, what is the purpose of writing for them? It's to bring something new, right? It's to bring some kind of new idea, not to improve the person in front of me. When I look at let's say Imam al-Haddad and his Risalat al-Muawana, okay, when an academic looks at this, he said, what's the big deal?
Risalat al-Muawana, just translate the book
of assistance.
Mm-hmm.
The academic looks at it, what did he contribute? He asks, what new thing did he bring? Okay. So I like to take the difference between, let's say, food. Religion for us is food. So when a chef today, when I'm hungry today and a chef cooks food for me, and I eat, and I'm alive because of that chef, because of that cook. The novelty of the meal is irrelevant. Is it healthy and tastes good and going to keep me alive? That's what's important. And that's what our religion is all about. It's not about novelty. It's literally serving spiritual food, knowledge from God to the people in front of me. That's what matters. To my neighbors, not to the academy. Bringing some new idea to the academy. That's actually possibly even blameworthy if that's your intention. If you ended up doing it as a byproduct, maybe. Like Imam al-Ghazali did not set out after 10 years for his 10-year sojourn to bring something new to the ummah. No, he set out to purify himself and to look for the problem in the ummah amongst the scholars. And as a result of that, okay, as a byproduct, he brought a whole new work that just changed everybody's mindset. But he didn't bring new knowledge. He just solved a problem that maybe had not existed up until that time with Ihya Ulumuddin. So if an Islamic seminary is going out and try to mimic this tradition, naturalistic, atheistic academia, then you yourself need head fixing, because you are making ta'zeem of someone who's worthy to give tadleel to. Right? You're aggrandizing something that needs to be put down. The seminaries, the knowledge for us is not about being able to say, hey, everybody, look at this new book. Hey, everybody, I've read all the different types of books. No, that is not the purpose of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to benefit the person in front of you, help him not go to Jahannam and make it to Jannah and get ma'rifah of Allah and improve his life. That's the purpose of ilm. Not this type of, so what is the value of reading? Let's take an example. We're going to do a survey of all the, let's say something innocent, seer. And then we're going to do an analysis of each. Explain to me what's the value? Right? What's the value of this? Just to be able to say, I know all these seer? No. The value is whether you take 1 or 10, that's irrelevant. The value is, have you personally imbibed it? Are you now able to transmit it? Have you then separated what's actually sounds from what's not? That's a good analysis. Okay? So that's why I think that these types of endeavors it's $1 million waste of time. You know, like severe waste of time. But it's such a big endeavor that you almost like can't admit that it's a waste of time. But it's a waste of time.
Wow, say that again. Right? It's such a big endeavor.
Yes, you can't. You have to justify it in some way. But in fact, I think that like it's just for showing off or trying to impress the academy, the Western naturalistic and atheistic academy. Right? Are you trying to impress them? Why would you try to impress them? I don't understand this. Right?
Is there another value that if we just went from the side of husnul dhan, like let's have a good opinion of those founders of those Islamic seminaries, and in their mind, we're just going to play, let's give the benefit of the doubt and see how this would work. They say, listen, we understand your contention with academia. We understand your contention with the methodology of Western, advanced studies in relation to Islam. But we're going to give the student, the Muslims, access to that while maintaining their Islamic identity. And they have this objective. Where would be, how would you respond to that?
That's
assuming, let me ask a pre-question quickly. You are aware of some of these Islamic seminaries, right? Have you had any engagement with students from them or from professors?
I've seen and heard things that they've been saying.
Okay, so you do have some insight into the work.
Number one, I think it's very good that you bring up the point of husn al-dhan.
Right.
Because we do have to have husn al-dhan. Let's take an example. Is anybody going to have su' al-dhan with Abdul Hakim Murad?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's in academia, right? And so he's navigated it. So we should say, I should make it very clear, this is my perspective based on what I see and know and believe. But that doesn't mean I'm mulim. I gathered all the possible perspectives, all the possible pieces of information and arguments and realities. So then someone like Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad can also give us his view, right, on it, since he's in academia, okay? But he also started a masjid too. And he's not even like trying to hide or mask that he is a believing Muslim. Like he doesn't even hide it or mask it. And you need more of that. There's another group of guys in England, in Oxford. There's Oxford Islamic Studies, whatever, center. It's not related to the university, but it's in the city of Oxford. They're doing something similar. So when I give a scathing review of the thing, yeah, that applies to my perspective. That is definitely a perspective. If the conditions that I'm saying are met, then yeah, this is the scathing response that I believe in. But we also have to open up to those other people who are doing it and see what they say. Because for sure, there are a lot of not only well-intentioned, but they're righteous and pious brothers. You never see anything bad from them. So I would have to have insaf and fairness,
right,
give their perspective. And then on this matter, which is a dhanni matter of thought and analysis, there may be points where I'm wrong and they're right. And there may be overlaps and there be misunderstandings too.
Now, I wasn't intending to dwell so much on this, but I think it's very important because I have this belief, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe I am, that the West will eventually use these Islamic seminaries to have what they call certified religious teachers, educators, authorities. And what will be the challenge in that is those who studied the traditional way, like we mentioned, Al-Kitab, the book, Al-Sheikh, the teacher, Al-Isnad, the chain of narration, and al-manhajiyya, the methodology of doing all that. This is a whole entire podcast in itself. One of our teachers, he mentioned in every Islamic science, the manhaj for that. Minhaj fil aqidah, minhaj for al-fiqh, minhaj in hadith, minhaj in, right? Everything has this, even looking at the signs of the time. And like that type of thing, there's a minhaj for that.
Mm-hmm.
So all those four components make up the traditional way of studying. But as you said, there is no certification, which you mentioned, they don't consider none of that. And the way to have a political correctness to wipe out the tradition is through that. But I'm hoping I'm wrong in that. So how do we as Muslims avoid that happening?
Yeah, it's easy to be wrong about the people's intent in doing so, while you're 100% right in how it's going to be used. Right? How it's going to be used. Like, conspiracy theorists, they confuse how things are used with who did it. So because the rich and powerful, whatever happens, they have the means to use it for their benefit. And conspiracy theorists said, oh, then they must have done it. No, they didn't. They may have not done it, but they took advantage of it. So likewise, the people starting off these types of seminaries, and then they may have great intentions, but how is it going to be used by the powers that be is a whole nother subject. And it's important to put yourself in a situation not to be used. I'd take an example. In one line, the purpose of an Islamic seminary, I would say, has to be to spread submission to Allah and belief in His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and action upon what they brought, right? That's like the summary of it. The premise of this, right, has to be that you believe in the Prophet and you are trying to do it yourself. That has to be the premise, right? So then how can you tell me now there are some non-Muslims as board members for such seminaries? Christians as board members for such a seminary? Is it me or is this totally off? So when you start saying now, well, Empire is going to start using these seminaries, I look at that and I say, well, I think maybe you're right. They may then stamp, you are the official. You're the official person because we know you and you've been defanged, declawed. The true purpose of the seminary is no longer there. The true purpose is da'wah, right? The true purpose. This is from Imam al-Haddad. He said, what is the goal of every Rasul? It's da'wah. And the mu'allim, actually, even Tablighi Jama'ah says this too. The prophets have to create desire in you. They create the himma, then the teacher can teach you. Imam al-Haddad said, the ulama rabbaniyun, they go and they create the interest in the people, they waken the people. Okay? Then if that person wants to be a student of knowledge, the student has to go to the sheikh to learn, but the da'i has to do his job first. And that's what we have to be that. And so I think you're 100% right that we may be headed in a situation where Western nations, all right, we can't stop these Muslims from making their schools. They're not going to listen to Professor Smith, right, who's not even a Muslim, writing books on Islam. That day is over. But how can we make sure that the empire-serving version of Islam exists, right? And that's empire. The first rule, as Ibn Khaldun said, and everybody knows, first rule of empire is to preserve its existence. And religion spread. People need religions. So whatever's spreading, we have to make sure that what here is there to serve empire. And what did Egypt do when it became a nation state? First thing, it attacked Azhar. How did it attack it? By funding it, by becoming its funder. So now you become its owner, right? And so now you want to make sure that this university serves the nation state first, religion second. And that's what every empire does. Serve nation first. What did Fir'aun say? He said, did you prostrate to me before taking my permission? He didn't have an issue with you prostrating. That's an amazing ayah. Yeah. قَبْلَ أَنْ آذَنَ لَكُمْ. You went and worshipped that God before I green-lighted it? That means you think you're independent of me? All right? I have to green-light it first. So empire will do that, and they most likely possibly will use these more Western academic leaning empire institutes to get people from.
So now, oftentimes, and we say this all the time in our environments, especially in the African American community, like that, not the access not being available. So same way, what are those who studied in the traditional way? What is our responsibility in answering the call to such a crisis that you're discussing, right? And is it at the level of access that is needed to assist in the preserving of a deen and a da'wah? You know, as Imam al-Haddad, he mentioned it, that in the da'wah, is preceded by ilm and amal, right? So we're going to preserve the knowledge, the practice, and then the responsibility of giving the call. Okay, you have those who have went through that tradition. What is our responsibility in that?
Well, I think there's a piece of good news is that regular everyday people always outnumber these elites, right? Regular everyday people are not looking for new facts, new ideas, these clever things, these fancy things. Allah Ta'ala, when He tests them, they're going to come looking for nourishment, actual true nourishment. And they will not find it from hearts that are been emptied and that have been focusing on something that's not the prophetic mission. They will be nourished truly by the traditional way, the products of the traditional way, I should say. That product focus on humility, night prayer, ibadah. So that's the heart that's full. So the good news is that the common folk, the common person is always going to gravitate to what benefits him, not to what's fancy. Okay. So that's on one side. On the other side, it is possible for a small group of people to corrupt millions upon millions upon millions. Okay. So when I go to Egypt, I find so many. I find both trends where there's still a lot of khair, yet there's a lot of people who are just in la la land. Why? Because the elites corrupted them. Imam al-Haddad said, the alim, his job, things were good, Imam al-Haddad said, in the country when the scholars went out to the people to give them da'wah and recognized, yes, you as a scholar, the student comes to you, but how do you make the common person into a student? You have to go to them. You have to go out there, whether it's now on platforms like you're doing now, or in his day, it was just go to the marketplace, go to all these other places, and talk to people. Imam al-Haddad said he would put a chair in a public place where it was appropriate to talk deen, and he would tell the story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would answer questions in fiqh. He would talk, and it was a designated system so that the people all heard the guidance. And that's what da'is have to do. If we cloister ourselves up and don't go out to the people, then we get what we deserve.
If you were to take an assessment of how we're doing collectively, how would you assess that? You're looking at what you're saying. Are we collectively, as those who have experience and access to the tradition, are we collectively, do you think, how would you assess our development in that regard?
I see that there are pockets where people are really active. And then there are areas that are barren. And New Jersey is very active. Dallas has a lot of activity. Okay. There's a lot of Muslims in the Bay Area. I don't know what their activity looks like. But pockets of Chicago. But the country is so massive that all this activity needs to literally be multiplied by 50. Because there are, between these pockets, I can't tell you how many people, probably 90%, will say there is no masjid that has forget a alim, talib ilm even, that teaches fiqh and that engages with the youth, has a youth program, has a converts program, has a ability to answer questions in fiqh or direct people's, that's like 90%. And so I think what we need to continue doing more of is we have to almost worry about sending too many people off for the long-term studies. That should be a few people. And the bulk should be a middle class who study 2, 3, 4 years, but they even part-time, like in your masjid, in your classes. Then they have connections. They can talk to the shuyukh, and then get activated. Go out and be active. Go out and there is a flaw, I would say, in traditional studies, which is that a person will study and be drilled in him, don't speak until you're qualified. Really what it means is don't speak about like fatwa. Don't speak about verdicts on hadith. Is it sahih or sahih? No. But so he just freezes. He's inactive. He is inactive. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm not qualified. What do you mean you're not qualified? 90% of the questions and answer you're going to get from youth, from college kids, from the community has been covered by you in the first year of your studies. And the other 10%, you can research it within 24 hours, you have the answer. And I don't even mean research it by reading books on your own. You can contact your shuyukh and get the answer. So there needs to be action. Faster than maybe previously, they used to do tahkeem. And you sit and you don't even think about action until you completed your studies. That day and age is over. And we were taught that. Rihla with Hamza Yusuf, he said, 1998, he said, if this is a deen of knowledge and action and education. You learn how to make wudu properly, then you go home and teach it. You're a sheikh in that subject, right? Go and teach it, not go and wait until I finish the whole 17-year iftat program. Then maybe I can open my mouth. This is not how it's going to work.
Imam al-Haddad, he mentioned that. He said, "Man amila mas'alatin wahidatan fahuwa alimun biha." And that type of that whoever learns one religious case, then that person is a scholar in that. But I think, like you said, I see that, and it hasn't worked. My teachers used to say this. First, you got to have a desire. That's one. And then you have to have the actual ability and capability to do it. And he said one of the things that would bother him is that the good people they send to go be an engineer, go be a doctor. When I mean good people, the people who have the ability and the desire to learn. And if you fail in all that, okay, go learn Islamic studies.
That's by design from the colonizers.
So he used to
put the low IQ in charge.
He would do stuff that was like strange. He was like, here's this guy coming from the West, studying, got to learn Arabic, and he's surpassing y'all in studies. He would like say that straight, right? He said, and that's what I mean is the desire and capacity. We need, like, I see it all the time. People go over, I'm going overseas, and I would say, you're not ready. You're nowhere ready. Some of them would leave, unfortunately. I ain't listening to you, I got it. And then they get over there, and they come back to do the same thing they could have done before they went.
100%.
Like, if you went 3-4 years, I've seen some 6 years, and they cannot sit with us and teach. If we put a book in front of them, it's over, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, but that person has the ability to do what you said and do better than us. But they chose a route that wasn't in their capacity. But actually, if that person would have just learned the things they need to handle what they're handling, they would have been a better job than most of the teachers that spent that time studying in
100%.
that field, right? Because the teacher's naturally going to get lost in the tradition if you spend a lot of time in it, because it's going to be a disconnect. But that person can tap into the tradition and still connect it and go do the work.
Yep. And then that's why there's text and there's context. If you leave too early, you have no knowledge of context. So what you said is going to happen. He's going to get lost in the tradition and study maybe 5 years something that's not necessary, not useful. But if he marinates at home first, and he learns his basic, his fundamentals up to the middle level with the shuyukh here. But in the meantime, he also learned the context. He understands this world where is going to be his arena. Then he travels. A, it won't get lost. B, will always have this knowledge of the context while he's studying, and therefore can come back, hit the ground running. But one of the problems that happens if a person goes straight abroad, takes too much time abroad, is the inability to talk to non-Muslims anymore, because his whole context and his shuyukh's context and his sheikh's context is all Muslims. So the ability to come and talk to non-Muslims is almost lost. And in some cases, the scholars are not allowed to be active in the Arabic world. They're not allowed to, politically. So he just sits in his library and he teaches. Does he go out and create a movement? No, he's not allowed. He'd go to jail if he did that. So the student sees that and says, okay, that's what mashayikha is. Come back. And are you going to do, go to the masjid, do ta'lim, go instigate, go start something, start to change things? No. It's not what our shuyukh did. Sit with, read the books. Cover to cover, pass the, and that's it. So that's where, is this the whole tradition? Obviously not. These are the possible pitfalls, I'm saying. Possible pitfalls, as your question was, how are we doing? These are possible pitfalls in students of knowledge. So they have to be avoided.
All right, we're approaching on Maghrib, not quite yet. What time we got Maghrib in your areas? What time?
Maghrib is coming in, subhanAllah, it is right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got 8-11.
Yeah, Toronto.
Okay, let us take a quick break. Imam Naeem and Imam Faheem will pick up. Me and you can go pray. Then when they come back, Imam Naeem don't have to. He's in the middle of Pittsburgh at the corner store. You don't have to worry about all that. But us, we're in Jersey, so we got to worry about that. Yeah. So maybe even Imam Faheem, you could go pray, or y'all two can take it for a couple minutes till we come back, and then we'll come right back. And I'll move to another area of discussion, inshallah. Barakallah.
Okay. Good. Sounds good. Inshallah. Exactly.
Imam Faheem.
You.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, bro.
What up, though?
What up, though?
Alhamdulillah.
How you feeling, man? How you feeling out there?
Yeah, how y'all doing?
Okay, yeah, we're a little hour over, you know what I mean? Now we're looking in the oven, that bread ain't leavening, you know what I mean? That bread ain't rising up there, you know? Let's get to that bread, inshallah. Make sure you make your donation, $10 per person, and our goal is $500, which makes it easy on all of us, inshallah, if everybody commits. For those who regularly, give their donation, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and double and multiply your reward. And with those who don't really give, it's time to start now, And for those who watch later, inshallah, who will make a contribution, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you and increase your risk and remove you from any harm. I mean, yeah, so there were a lot of jewels dropped tonight. When Dr. Shadee mentioned when he went to Saeed Malik Al-Alawi's house, and he said they opened up the window, the little thing, and they said you a spy. Wow, and you can just think about the pressure they under, because I had the honor of going there when I went on Umrah in February, and on the last day of our trip, inshallah, we made it to the Sheikh's house. His son is running it now, and it was the same thing, So with the brother, you all know Ahmed Mubarak that we had on here, may Allah preserve him. He was the one that ran the Umrah trip, mashallah. And so on the day before we were going to leave, he was trying to make the connection so that we can go visit him. And then we were able to go. So we didn't hear anything. And so we were in in the hotel room chilling. And so then, Ahmed said, yo, we got to go now. He said, you got to be in an hour. And so we were about an hour away. So we had to get up and jump up and roll, and so we got there, and so we was lost for a little bit because the driver, he didn't really know where it was at. And so then we were able to find it. And so when Ahmed got to the thing, it was a little slot they opened up. And he's like, yeah. And then he was like, I'm here to see the Sheikh. And they just shut the thing. And so this is the 2026. So, I think the Sheikh said when he was there was, I forgot the year, but, that's how cautious they've been all of these years because of the pressure from the government. May Allah who spent a lot of keep him safe. And so then, like he said, for a few days he couldn't get in. And so, but alhamdulillah, we were blessed with to have mobile phones. So he had to text the person, like, basically, man, can you tell him that it's me at the gate? And so then they came back, oh yeah, why you ain't say so? You know, but mashallah. And then we got in there. It was just such a blessed gathering, man. And we were getting in so deep, but we had to get on our train to Jeddah to catch the flight out. And so that was about I think that's about an hour or so away. Well, yeah, it's about an hour driving, you know. So alhamdulillah, we were able to make it, but we had a blessed time there, inshallah. Yeah. Somebody said they had a question posted. You had anything, Imam Naeem?
No, sir. I think she meant that her questions were already posted.
Okay. Is anyone still have? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was about to say I'll go find it and put it in the private chat. Yeah, I see it.
Okay. Somebody put a question. You see that? Oh, we can't post it. But the problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubt, while the stupid people are full of confidence. Charles Bukowski. I would just suggest students of knowledge deal with this. We'll leave that for Dr. Shadee, inshallah, and Imam Amin when they come back. I was about to say something. I can't remember. Something was going on. Oh yeah. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad to have Dr. Shadee on because you know Dr. Shadee is like one of the most practical people you can ever meet, man. You know, the way he just, you know, disseminates information and it's just so smooth, man, and like so palatable, mashallah, and without compromising his principles, you know, and that's very important. And so him taking the stand, especially, you know, engaging in some of these, you know, more nuanced topics, inshallah, on his platform, which is pretty big, you know, Safina Society. And he's a fellow Jersey boy, you know, mashallah. So he's about 45 minutes from us, you know. And I've had the pleasure of visiting the Masjid, and inshallah, whenever I'm in the area, you know, I try to stop in. But you know, I know he's super busy. But mashallah, you know, may Allah who spent without to preserve his community, preserve him and allow him to keep, you know, continue the teachings of Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah, because you know, there's you know, a segment of our ummah, you know, that needs, you know, that inshallah ta'ala. And we are blessed to, you know, bring these two segments together, you know, and the people that we reach and the people that he reaches, and seeing us, you know, having a discussion about the same concepts and the same methodology, and you know, just different, you know, variations of how we discuss it because of our backgrounds and our training and such. But you know, this is big, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us more openings to cover topics like this and to come together, inshallah, because that statement the brother put, you know, stupid people full of confidence. And I would just say that, you know, Ahl Sunnah, not that they're lacking confidence, but they're just lacking connection, you know, because the more of us stand up, then we drown out all of the other noise that's really just that noise, you know, and then the more people that we reach and that we teach and that we engage, you know, and educate, then, you know, the more that our teachings, you know, grow, inshallah, and then, you know, we get back into a comfortable place of, you know, people getting the proper knowledge, inshallah, you know. You had anything, man?
No, sir.
You gotta give up something, man. There's another question. How can we make the scholars or students of knowledge more accessible to the common peoples? Dr. Shadee kind of mentioned that he mentioned one of the scholars, I forget the name, that he said, you know, you got to go to the people. You know, he said where the sheikh set up a chair in the market and was giving dawah, you know.
Yeah, he was talking about Imam al-Haddad.
Yeah, Imam al-Haddad, mashallah. And so, you know, and so then on the other part, you know, when they are accessible, make sure the common people show up as well. You know, because I seen an advertisement about a course that someone was teaching, you know, and they had the same books that we've been covering. I know Imam Amin covered a couple of these books at least a couple of times, and they have a program, and I don't know if it was accredited or not, but they were charging for a year program. It was like $450 a month, right? And so it's like a tuition for it was like $4,500, right? So you know, you can pay a one-time fee or something like that, and over 10 months, yeah, you pay $450 a month. And I'm like, man, you know, what are we what are we doing wrong? Maybe we just need to offer a discount or something, man, because wow, you know, how is that? You know, but it's just like you know, sometimes the people who make the connection are avoided and neglected, you know, and that's a problem that we have, and people were out here, and then, you know, people look for something else, you know. So to answer to that question, just the ones who are accessible, you know, you go to them. You know, if they can't come to you, if they're not on that level, you go to them, because I mean, I'm pretty sure that Dr. Shadee can agree. For a lot of times, and when it counts, you know, a lot of our masters are empty. You know, and the classes, you know, they start off, you know, large, and then it's 2 or 3 people, you know, and so as far as accessibility, make ourselves accessible. So, you know, to give the teacher their rights, you know, to give the shuyukh their rights, inshallah, that they have somebody to teach.
My Wi-Fi was glitching, but I'm back. I hope it's good now.
Yeah, you sound clear.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So I don't know, Dr. Shadee, there are a couple questions in the private chat.
Sure.
If you want to tackle them, inshallah.
Can I take those?
Yes.
Okay. How do we create a national majlis geared to identify what works in spreading dawah and sharing expertise to build effective masajid across America? So, you know, the saying of the ulama, they say, "Al-ilm rahimun bayna ahli." So people of knowledge are like, it's like a relationship, like siblings almost. And so better than a national majlis, but something similar to it could just be like the ethic of connection, even if it's informal, even if it's without a body, but the ethic, the belief that we have to always be in communication. We have to always be talking to one another. That's really what's important. And the ethic of tazawur too. We're always visiting one another. And over the years, when you start witnessing, okay, what's working for this person, what's working for that person and that organization. So if you spread these ethics amongst people, the communication and visitation, then that's what's going to allow us to cross-pollinate. That's what matters, cross-pollination. And I think we think we're cross-pollinating when we talk online, but we're truly cross-pollinating only when we actually physically visit each other and get to see, yeah, you may not actually be able to put certain things online, right? Like most youth activity cannot be put on. There's nothing to put online, right? Another question says, the problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubt while stupid people are full of confidence. That's so true. That is so true. How do you suggest students of knowledge deal with this? I think students of knowledge in Islam, the foundations have to be separated from the furu'a. So the furu'a, the branches, knowledge all knowledges are divided into 2 categories. That which doesn't require thought and that which requires thought. If you confuse the two and you say, well, you know, there's a lot of nuance on traveler's prayer. Okay, that's traveler's prayer. That nuance doesn't exist on the truthfulness of the Prophet, peace be upon him, right? So nuance has a limit. And I think a lot of times in academia, everything is nuanced. Whereas, no, and if everything was nuanced, nothing would be known. We couldn't know anything. So there is the firm root, foundational root that is not up for discussion, not even up for interpretation, not even up for scholarly endeavors. So, for example, do you pray dhuhr because you're a Shafi'i, or just because you're a Muslim? I don't need Shafi'i fiqh to know that I have to pray dhuhr. I don't need Maliki fiqh to know I have to pray asr, right? But some of the details within those prayers, yes, may be nuanced, but the prayer itself. So students of knowledge have to separate between, right, the foundations, which are not up for discussion, and they have to speak clearly about them. If you notice, really intelligent people, they never like to make categorical statements. That's true. But then are you never even going to make them when it comes to the truthfulness of God and his prophet and death that's coming to us soon? That's not how prophets spoke. They were very categorical. They said, this is the truth, period, discussion over. And so very intelligent people, I believe, and this may be just like one type of answer to your question, the mistake that they make is they take nuance and they spread nuance everywhere. Whereas no, there's nuance on some things, hesitation on some things, but there is no hesitation on other things. The angel of death is coming to us. There's no hesitation on that. Okay. And I think that the fools are the opposite. Fools, they don't think there's any nuance, and they treat everything that they know as absolute knowledge. You can go look in the book Sulam, where he divides knowledge into that which is badi, that which is daruri, and that which is nadari. And the correct balance is to know where is the daruri, where is the nadari. Likewise, in our religion, there's qat'iyat and there's dhanniyat. Qat'i, absolutely certain. Speak with it openly. No hesitation. Dhanniyat, speculative things, yeah, make sure that you say that this is my opinion based on the information I have, and I could be wrong. And last question, how can we make the scholars or students of knowledge more accessible to the common people? We should, as we mentioned earlier, really emphasize from the start of your studies that the purpose of knowledge is ta'lim and da'wah. Of course, your own action upon it. But if you act upon it and you don't spread it, then you're a cheat of the ummah. You're cheating the ummah. You're hoarding. You're a hoarder. You're no different than someone who's in the old days used to hoard like sugar or hoard money. So that's the ethic. So once he's taught that ethic from the start, then he always makes himself accessible from the beginning.
Anthony asked, can you share the book again so I can read it, inshallah? I'm not sure what book he's referring to. Maybe
the book Sulam you mentioned.
Which one?
Sulam.
Oh, the book is called As-Sulam Al-Munawwaraq, and it's translated actually, but also given in a nice way that regular people can easily grasp this book. It's in my bookshelf, and I can't remember. It's a brother out of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, from one of the Darul Ulooms. He took Sulam, and not only did he make it really easy and accessible, but he also made it, he included the Western words for the same logical principles. I wish I could remember it off the top of my head, but I can't. But it's basically Introduction to Islamic Logic. Let me see if I can find it here. I mean, if you look up any of the books on Introduction to Mantiq, you'll see that. And by the way, my position on Mantiq, the first few lessons are amazing. You have to take them. After that, it's a semi-waste of time.
Okay, we getting ready to go and turn up the heat in here a little bit. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Now,
I'm all about that. Yeah.
We've been observing over, I would say, the last year or more. Let me put this in context, because that's very important. Especially us at the Black Imams Roundtable, we have our main work is in the inner cities of America, specifically in the Black community. So for us, our main issue that we're confronted, we talked about that. Now we're talking about the Islamic side of it. among Muslims. We have a head-on approach with what they call in our time a da'wah to Salafiyah, which in the traditional way we learned as a da'wah to Wahhabiyah. And it's changing over the time, especially when you take into context the different classes of people and the ethnic backgrounds of people within America, that it's took on different looks. Yasser Qadi, he mentioned that kind of very well in his book. He didn't really concentrate on what's happening in the inner cities, which is a whole nother world, but he touched right on the issues. So there is this traditional approach as opposed to this approach. And the main issues, there are many, that we deal with is the issues of as-sifat, the attributes of Allah. And here, there is, when this term was used, Salafi, in our communities, and as it got a little heat, it became Athari. As it got a little more heat, it became Hanbali. But when we've been examining these transitions, we saw a common thread with the da'wah of al-Wahhabiyya, meaning the followers of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And as I've been observing your work, I see you're trying to, at where you at, bridge that, and we're doing the same thing. So I wanted to go into that discussion. So if briefly you can give me your overall of what I'm talking about, that you're with me, and then I'll go into the more detailed aspects of it.
Sure thing. So you know how when you talked about this academia, I said I put up an absolute wall. A person who is not believing the Prophet, does not want to practice anything in Islam, I have no need to take any knowledge from him. I have a wall between me and this person. It's no different than a person, and it's not to offend anybody who's out of shape, but somebody comes talking to me about fitness. But this person is 300 pounds. Why would I listen to you? Okay? You don't even believe in being fit. So I don't have not listening to you. Likewise, when it comes to Aqidah and fiqh and ilm, the source is the four madhabs. And I have a wall beyond that. I'm not even discussing it. There's four madhabs. Any movement you bring, any new idea you bring, will be put into the sieve of the four madhabs, and preferably the dominant opinion, not preferably, as a principle, the dominant opinion within the four madhabs. Okay? And that's the foundational point. So in the same way with academia, I didn't go in there trying to flirt with them and see what's good and what's not. No, if you're not acting upon what you're doing, we call this nifaq. If you're not even a believer, then that's not even part of the discussion, right? So likewise, when it comes to Islam, here's the logic. The logic is as follows. Any movement that is in the last 300 years or 400 years even, where did you get the Quran from? Where did you get Islam from? Where did you get the ahadith from? Where did you get the Arabic language from? From these ulama who are arbab al-madahib, right or wrong. So you got your Islam from them. So that is what our deen is with certainty. Okay? So I can say with certainty these four madahib. Yeah.
As a joke, I think you should maybe say ashabul madahib instead of arbab.
Oh, yeah. Ashab al-madahib.
Hey, Imam Naeem, did you catch that joke?
No, run it back.
He said, Arbab al-Madahib. I said, I think you better change that to Ashab al-Madahib because Arbab ain't gonna fly.
The leaders and Ashab of the Madahib. right? So that's how you got your religion. So that's literally the nasab, the lineage of our religion is through these chains of transmission. The lineage of how we get to know Allah and His Messenger is through these madhahib. And so therefore, that's my starting point. And I'm not entertaining the discussion about these madhahib. So therefore, anything that I personally do, Safina Saidi does, our Masjid does, if you're going to bring an idea, it's got to be registered as an acceptable idea in one of these madhahib.
Okay, since you mentioned that, and what a lot of people don't understand, when we're talking about al-madhahib al-arba'a, the four madhabs, this is in ilm al-fiqh. This is in the science of fiqh. Our issue, because even the Wahhabiyya in general, they follow the Hanbali school, except in those ikhtiyarat, those personal derived opinions of certain individuals, right? But in general, that's even their scholarly class agrees you got to follow one of the four madhabs. That's not an argument. That's only a new movement, and it's not among the scholars among them. They're scholars. But in the terms of the creed, we take the same position that you mentioned about the four schools. That in Aqidah, there are madhaban, two madhabs, that we say are the standard. Al-Asha'ira wal-Maturidiyya. As I learned, and all the time I was learning, we learn, as Muhammad Murtada az-Zabidi mentioned in his Ittaf as-Sadat al-Muttaqeen, he said, whenever the term Ahl al-Sunnati wal-Jama'ah is mentioned, hum al-Asha'ira wal-Maturidiyya. Imam al-Haddad, in the book that you mentioned, Risalat al-Mu'awwana, he said that al-Sunnah are al-Asha'ira, and he said al-Maturidiyya applies to the same thing. That's a general rule. Now, there is this movement of the Aqidah of al-Hanabila, or Athariya, or Salafiyya. And because we said of the transitions of names, how do we match those things and identify where that red line you drove for the four madhabs, where's that red line in Aqidah in terms of the same thing?
When I mentioned the four madhabs, so the scholars were organized in madhabs and labeled by madhab because that's the bulk of what they did. Fiqh is the biggest subject by and large. But that sheikh had to do tarbiyah. They had to have spiritual development. He has opinions on that. Okay. That sheikh had to have aqidah. So he has an opinion on that. Okay. All right. He's having he oftentimes have books on that. All right. And so the as we know, the Ahnaf are Maturidiyya, and some in Syria are Ash'ari. The Shawafi', the Malikiyya and the Shawafi' are together in that they are Ash'ari.
Shawafi are going to go over people's head. What is that?
Shawafi'?
Yeah, they're not going to catch that.
Okay.
You got to give another word.
The Shafi'is and the Malikis and Shafi'is are Ash'ari. So what did the luminaries in Hanbali fiqh? They wrote books in Aqidah. Right? And so I have a series of books I've been reading for the last 2 years or so, given to me by Sheikh Nuh Saunders. Okay, this is one of the books.
Is that English or Arabic?
Qala'id al-Aqiyan.
Okay.
Let me see if the second page has a clearer text. I'm not in front of my.
I couldn't see it.
Yeah, I'm not in front of my my library right now, so I could be able to pull these books out. The second one is Mubtadi'in, which is the bigger version of this. A third one, remember when we talked one time, I asked you what is an example of furu' in Aqidah, and you mentioned it's like mutawatir. or it's not mutawatir, is not the right word, but it's almost agreed upon on the wilaya of Abdul Qadir al-Jailani. Did he have a aqidah? And what did he write? He wrote a aqidah, right? And he wrote it in many places too, so that if someone says, "Oh, it's the authoritativeness is questionable of this book," okay, is all his books questionable? Because he wrote them in a lot of places. So that is what I refer to as the Hanbali Aqidah. Now, some people say, no, there is no Hanbali Aqidah because the Hanbalis are all over the place. And Hanbalis themselves told me this. They're all over the place. Okay. Ibn al-Jawzi is in one area, and Ibn Taymiyyah is in another area, and then, okay, what's the dominant? Okay. There is a dominant, there is a common, dominant set of books that they study. Before Ibn Taymiyyah, what were they studying? And after him, they were studying the same thing. Okay, and not all of them took every single thing that he said. In fact, this book doesn't. He probably would refute this book or parts of this book.
Oh, that was the problem. That was the screen. I thought that was a real book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a screen.
Oh, I got lost. I thought it was a book. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So, if somebody is coming from a background that is, they're saying is an ethnic background, and you want to be ethnic, okay, let me show you the right way to be ethnic according to the four madhabs. Because these ulama are all recognizing one another, all respecting one another. Especially, it happened in Syria, it happened in Egypt, where they came together and they agreed on the foundations of what is of takfir. They agreed upon these things. They agreed what are the limits on the sifat. And the baseline of what they say on the sifat, ends up being the baseline of the ashar on a tafweed.
Right. That's a very important point. And that's why, so those books, all of those series of books of these Hanabila, which really focus predominantly in the 11th, 10th, and 9th centuries, right? Like if all those books, most of them, they're going to reach their height in that area among Al-Hanabila, which is totally different, that's why I mentioned time, than the movement that became known as the Wahhabi movement that became known as Salafi, or which is getting the name Athari. Because we had a discussion with one of them that was on, and he mentioned, and he codes those creeds, that they're all the same. So there is a blur between the Hanabila in creed, which is the creed of the books you mentioned, like Qala'id al-Aqyan and Nihayat al-Mubtadi'in and those types of books, right? As opposed to the name and the creed of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, or even the creed of Ahmed ibn Taymiyyah, because those books don't represent that creed. Like in those books, if you go to the issue of as-sifat, and you would see, even when they would talk about mathalan ar-Rahman ala al-arsh istawa, they're going to say Allah mawjudun bila makan, la makan la. That's in those books. Whereas those other books are assigning to Allah a place, a direction, a place. So the one who says, no, we follow the Athari creed, are they following the creed that you're reading in that book? Because in those books, which is real, it's even further, they go to the extent that the one who says that, yakfur, that person
is a kafir completely. Yep.
So there is a line that needs to be drawn and made clear for those who are doing the same thing in Islam that the Western universities are doing. It is a sense of tadlis, istidraj, all of these matters. And because it's so all over the place, I think as we define things, because if we look at that madhab, there is the absence of ta'wil, right? In a general, as a mu'tamad position. Not that there's no one made ta'wil, because even Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, made ta'wil. But in general, there's this, leaving as it comes. But that is in the Ash'ari and the Maturidi madhab and the Tafweed. So how do you explain this external creed, not this Hanbali creed, because Tajuddin As-Subki mentioned it. He said, those of the Ash'ari and Maturidi said, in Fudala ul-Hanabila. So he was pointing to something, right?
Yeah.
Which means they existed in his time. And before that, way before these centuries that I mentioned, because he comes in the 8th century, right? So these established in Damascus, this is in the 9th, 10th, 11th centuries. How do you merge so that people are not confused in the creed? Because the side thing is coming, let's not talk about Aqidah. While they are causing, confusion in the creed, how do we as Ahl Sunnah, where's that line that we draw? Because you drew it like clearly with the 4 madhabs. How do we draw that same line in Aqidah?
Yeah, so there are, Ibn Qudama is one of their biggest shuyukh. I don't think that they teach texts of Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, but he is without a doubt one of their biggest shuyukh. Okay, so what did they say? And you have to convince me now why I need to move away from what they said. Okay? And you're going to now tell me, like Ibn Qudama, like let's look at this. He says, we don't increase the words, any increasing that gives any other meaning on the mutashabih ayat. بل قراءتها تفسيرها ولا نزيد على الألفاظ زيادة تفيد معنى. Okay, we don't add anything to it. So, okay, and then he says on the same page, he says, our iman with these ayat and akhbar as-sifat فإنما هو إيمان بمجرد الألفاظ التي لا شك في صحتها ولا ريب في صدقها. When we say we affirm and believe, what does it mean? You're affirming this word, that yes, God said this word, and we're not adding to it or any subtracting from it. So I would say these are the books. This is how we define Hanbali creed, by the definition of these imams. We say Abdul Qadir al-Jailani's works, then you go to Quraidan, Nihayat al-Mubtadi'in, and that's how the definition of the spine or the dominant opinion of the Hanbali creed. In Syria, in Egypt, in their curriculum say this, right? And that's how it's being, that's how we're using it.
So now when you talk about at-tafweed, because al-Ash'ari and Maturidiyya is included, they have 2 approaches. They have the approach of at-tafweed, which is they call it ta'wil ijmali. Why? And it's very important I'm bringing this out, because what you mentioned from Ibn Qudama, right, is an explicit say. He said, ta'wil tafsiruha qira'atuha, these ayat and these ahadith, their explanation are their recitals, which is the position of the Salaf, as Al-Bayhaqi mentioned in his book, Al-Asma' wa Sifat. He mentioned the statement of Sufyan ibn Uyayna, where he was talking about that. He said, tafsiruha, these ayat and these hadith, qira'atuha wa sukutu anha, right? So there's this reading of the text, kama ja'at, right? As it came, related to these verses. As they came, that is, right, what is intended, and we don't give no meaning. That's what Ibn Qudama mentioned. And that's what Sufyan ibn Uyayna said. He said, it is not valid or acceptable that you explain it in any other language. So that means you're reciting the Quran بِاللُّغَةِ الْعَرَبِيَّةِ, as Allah said, وَجَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. So you leave it, and that's the end of discussion, to recite it. But that's not what's happening. It's for those who are claiming they're reciting and then giving the dhahir, apparent meaning, which contradicts sukut, right? So this doesn't match that Hanbali thing, but that's what's being put.
Yeah.
And that was the problem with Ibn Taymiyyah in that, because he doesn't represent that Hanbali creed. Rather, his inference into meanings and giving meanings that are not befitting was problematic even for them, right? So we have this issue. How would you say when we're talking to those who can't distinguish these issues, like I said, a tafweed is the same thing as what Ibn Qudama mentioned, right? And then a ta'wil, a tafsili, that detailed ta'wil is also a position, but that's not the position of the Ash'aris or the Maturidis. That is a position. And even that is not definitive because it ultimately goes back to a tafweed, right? I don't see a difference between the two, right? But I do see a difference in what is being presented as Hanbaliism that doesn't reflect these ideas.
Yeah, and I would also add that, if I'm not mistaken, there's a statement from Imam Ahmad himself where he lists the ta'wilat of the Sahaba. Yes. And he says, where they make ta'wil, we make ta'wil. Yes. We transmit that ta'wil. Where they don't make ta'wil, we don't make ta'wil either. All right, so even he's accepting certain ta'wilat of Salama and Ibn Abbas and otherwise. So also there is the statement of al-zahir. What is meant by al-zahir? Is it meant al-lafz? And secondly, I saw two definitions from Hanabila on al-zahir. The first one, it meant al-lafz. Right. Number two is it's meant what the mind would understand after tanzih, what the pure fitrah would understand after tanzih. Okay. So there's a lot of different meanings within the umbrella of the Hanbali schools on the Aqidah. And that's why some people said there is no Hanbali Aqidah. Their argument is that there is none. My response is no, there is a majority. There is a dominant. There may be not the same unicity as Ash'aris and Maturidis, but there definitely is a majority, and it's to constantly point back to this majority. Are you going to say that this Imam of yours is a Mubtada? Right? So it's again, what would they say?
I said, yeah, they will say that. That's not like arguing. Yeah, we will say that. Did you see the guy, Shams, the Egyptian guy? He said that As-Suyuti is a kafir and Abu Hanifa was mubtada' and Nawawi mubtada' based on As-Sifat. This is a real in the Arab world. Now, we didn't make that up. He said that. And then followed it, like for shock view, put it out, then followed up with so-called Salafi, Athari. So I'm saying that is because sometimes people get the approach, and I know you, so I know that ain't the approach, that there's a leaning in order to get along to bad creed.
Yeah, so no, I view this as the golden off-ramp. If you're a person who has been on one of these other creeds and now is looking to start in a sense, well, I don't think it's right, and you're starting to question it and starting to realize the divisive nature of this group of people or the inconsistent nature, of course, it is much easier to say, look, this is what you're actually looking for. This is the aqidah that you're actually looking for. Likewise, when those who wanted to hold istighatha, it's kufr. I say, okay, you want it to be kufr? I can show you the conditions in which it will be kufr. There's conditions. Sujood can be kufr and could be iman. It's sujood that you do all the time. Okay? A man puts a chair and he prostrates right in front of it. There's conditions. Does he believe that's his God? Or is he using it as sutra? Right? There's conditions on sujood. So if you want istighatha to be shirk and kufr, I'll help you. There are conditions. Right? If your mu'taqad is that this person is worthy of worship. If the mu'taqad is that he has absolute power. Okay? If the mu'taqad is that you're asking something only Allah can give. Or if the istighatha you're doing is to an idol. We'll say, oh, this can be kufr. Right? If that's what makes you happy, I'll show you how to do it properly. So, because Shaitan doesn't use something that's far off. He uses something that's close. So the key is not is to show where is the line. Right? Where is that line when it comes to, even when it comes to, I was talking to a brother who is against tafweed. And he says, no, it's ithbat. And he went and showed that tafweed is, and he asked many quotes. I said, okay, when we say tafweed, we don't say it has no meaning. As Sheikh Saeed Fouda has a lecture on it. We don't say it has no meaning. That means Allah revealed something with no meaning. No, it means the majority of it we don't know about. And what we would call the ta'wil ijmali, we do know about, right? The general meaning of that verse, yes, we do know what that means, right? So even on those who are pushing against tafweed, they don't even want to do tafweed. They want complete ithbat. So with that, even what Ibn Qudama mentioned here, with the ithbats of what? Right? What are you making ithbats of? The alfaz at the end of the day. Right? The alfaz.
Which is the essence of a tafweed.
Which and ends up being tafweed again.
I think people miss that. And that's what I don't believe it's the Hanabila. I believe it's the Wahhabiyya, so-called Salafiyya, injecting their creed inside the Hanbali school.
Yeah.
Because if you say ithbat, what is ithbat, right? It is affirming the texts as they came. And Imam Shafi'i said that. Amantu billah وبما جاء عن الله على مراد الله وآمنت برسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على وبما جاء عن رسول الله بمراد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I believe in Allah and what he revealed as he intended it. I believe in the messenger of Allah and what he conveyed as he intended it, which is what Ibn Qudama mentioned, right? A tafweed is that. But the difference is explicit when the scholars explain that what is not intended is the dhahir meaning, that apparent meaning which rushes to the mind of the human being, which is consistent with Imam Ahmad's statement, مَهْمَا تَصَوَّرْتَ بِبَالِكَ فَاللَّهُ بِخِلَافِ ذَلِكَ.
Correct.
Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is different from that. And that necessitates nafyul kayfiyya anillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala wa sifatihi. That's going to necessitate negating a modality to Allah and his attributes. Which is the essence of tafweed. Tafweed is to say we have ithbat bi rurud al-alfaz fil mutashabihat. We affirm that these words that came related to the mutashabihat as Allah intended. But there is a negation of the apparent meaning, which is the essence of al-kayfiyya, while we're saying laysa kamithlihi shay.
Correct.
That's distinctly different from the one who is affirming the text, ithbat, while attributing a kayfiyya, right? And saying, negating knowledge of the kayfiyya, but attributing that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is something that is the problematic thing. So I think it's distinguished. Hey, when we say ithbat, what is meant by ithbat? Just what Ibn Qudama mentioned, what Sufyan ibn Uyayna mentioned, what Ash-Shafi'i was mentioning in that. It's the same spirit, what Imam Ahmed mentioned. So, and I think sometimes is our problem as, especially as non-Arabic speaking people, we forget that the Quran is in the Arabic language. We forget that. So we just automatically go to translation. The Hanbali Creed does not involve translation. That's the most difficult part. Because if you're attributing, say, them, he said that its explanation is his recital. The recital of the Quran is in Arabic. So really, the Hanbali approach is not to discuss those things. It's recite the Quran and that's it. Oh, got him. He's gone. Oh.
Yeah, I'm back.
You follow what I'm saying? Because that's the approach.
Yeah.
Do you think those Hanbalis, from your experience, who have that same belief, have expressed it well enough to separate from that bad belief that makes it safe for others to enter that realm?
I think for sure that what I've seen from Sheikh John Starling is that he's expressed it. And he's gone even into istighath and tawassul. Okay? And he's gone into sifat. And his website, Hanbali Disciples, has all these articles. And even one of the best ones he brings from Ibn Qudama's statement himself, where he says, if you are against the stopping on this discussion, tafweed, then you are also against the Messenger, peace be upon him, because he never gave a tafsir to them, right? قال وأيضا فإن عائب هذه المقالة عائب على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فإنه كان يؤمن بالله وكلماته ولم يفسر شيئا من ذلك ولا بين معناه.
That's huge.
That's
Now,
huge.
just translate that.
So he says here.
That's a powerful statement, but now translate that.
He said, if you are negating what we're saying, which is don't make tafsir, don't comment, just believe, accept this without any tafsir or commentary. He says here that the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi, if you're negating that and you're blaming the one who does that, you're blaming the Prophet, peace be upon him, because he used to believe in these verses and he never explained any of it and never expanded upon any of it. And so now on the point of tanzih, you can summarize the tanzih in two things. Number one, that Allah is not any jism that takes up space. He's not anything that takes up space. He's not made of matter. And number two, that he does not make hulul into his creation. Because the premise of, I would say, most people on the earth is that that space is a thing, okay, between two created things. That's what space is. And therefore, it's a creation in itself, even if it's mental in its nature. Okay? Because space is between two created things. So the space inside of this is what is between the top, the side, and the bottom. Therefore, it's created. If it's contained by the creation, it's a creation too, right? So that the argument in response is now that what some people try to say, in order to establish the highness of Allah, the ulu, they say no, there is a space that is not created. I said, okay, we enter philosophy then, right? Show me that from the words of the Salaf. But every commonsensical, rational person says space is a creation. And Qala'id al-Aqyan, that book that I just mentioned here, and Nihayat al-Mubtadi'een, they all say the same exact line. كان ولا مكان ثم خلق المكان. Okay? Allah existed before space existed. There was nothing that you would call space, because space needs creation around it. So when there was no creation, there was no space. Then he created the space by creating creation, created things. And between them is space. And he exists now as he existed then. And there was a guy who did a video out in Egypt, and he said, this is a Shi'i statement. I said, subhanAllah, you didn't even read the Hanbali books. It's all over the Hanbali books, this statement. Okay? So our foundation is that space, makan, is that which is between the creation. Therefore, it itself is created. Okay? And if you say that Allah is in a makan, then you are saying He made hulul into His creation. So we must negate hulul and we must negate jism. If you look at Sayyidina al-Jailani's ghunya,
We define hulul and jism, just for people, because some
sure,
people, they don't
jism
understand.
is a body, anything that takes up space. A jism is a physical, touchable thing that has limits. Allah doesn't have limits. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's ahad, He's one in Himself. Every single physical thing has a right side and a left side, top side and a bottom side, inside and outside. It can be measured, right? But Qul huwa Allahu ahad says Allah is one in Himself. Therefore, He doesn't have a right side or a left side, top side or a bottom side. So that's the negation of the jism. As for the negation of hulul, it is entering the creation. Okay? And all space is a created thing. Sayyidina al-Jailani goes on for a long time to defend the Hanbali position that we can make itlaq, we can recite these mutashabihat, we can say them, and he establishes, we affirm the attributes as they have come down without egg. But before all that, he says Allah is not a jism or a arad or a jawhar. Okay. He negates God being made of matter.
Do you have the nas in front of you or no? You got to look.
I can get it for you easily. I've read
Yeah,
this book so many
because
times.
it's important, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of, especially those who are trying to find that balance, what you're talking about, between
Yeah.
Wahhabiyya to, you know, al-aqidah, al-aqidatul hanabila as-sahiha, that correct Hanbali creed.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking doesn't help them much. Reading the nusus would make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to present it on the screen, or you can't? Or
You
what
can.
will make a difference?
You can. Don't you got the chat there, right there? I mean, you know how to work this. Yeah, just put it in the chat.
Okay, here we go. Let me pull it up. Oh, okay. I can't do it in this browser. I can only do it if I'm in Chrome. But anyway, let me just read it to you.
Okay, yeah, just read it.
Okay. So it's in the book Al-Ghunya.
Al-Ghunya, okay.
Al-Ghunya, which is the extremely explicit Hanbali Athari Aqidah on the Sifat. But what does Sayyidina Shaykh al-Jailani begin the very first line with in his book Al-Ghunya, on the chapter on Aqidah, which is in the copy that I'm looking at? Just give me a second while it uploads, or it loads up. Okay. Because it's a long book, so Internet Archive is taking time. I'll see which comes faster, on my phone or on the.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna give you a secret. Make sure you go buy a big building and keep hard copy books. AI is going to do all this stuff in the future.
100%.
And you're gonna need your library. So make sure. I've been really following this AI thing. Maybe that's a whole nother discussion. But I think they're going to use that to help us forget our tradition.
Mm-hmm.
In the Islamic sense. They got other missions too. But that's become a way where we no longer even read our books. And now
100%.
Your book is online, and I can play with that all day, especially with no Senate, AI can do whatever it wants. So that's a whole nother discussion. So just my advice is preserve the books. Because they're gonna put the books people out of business altogether. Right. So and one of my teachers said something to me in that regard. He said the published books are far less than the books that are in manuscripts in libraries and houses of scholars around the world. And the manuscripts are far less than the books that were lost during invasions.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost a whole lot. And you know that when you're doing the Maqtutat, those manuscripts, a lot of them are missing.
SubhanAllah.
Right. So that was just my advice with that. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm screenshotting this. Maybe I can put it as an image if I screenshot it. So let me present it and read it to you and translate it. Okay. Bismillah. Here we go. Okay. This is the book. It's presenting now. You see this now?
Yes. Go ahead. It's right on the screen.
باب في معرفة الصانع عز وجل نقول أما as for the knowledge of the maker it is with signs and indicators. Okay, in summary, it is to know with certainty that Allah is one and one singular and one in himself. لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. He is none like unto him, and he is the all hearing and all seeing. لا شبيه له ولا نظير له, nothing like him and no companion. ولا عون, no helper. ولا ظهير, no assistant. لا شريك, no partner. لا وزير, no minister. ولا ند ولا مشير, he doesn't have an equal, nor does he have anybody he takes counsel from. ليس بجسم فيمس, he is not a jism that can be touched. ولا بجوهر فيحس, nor is he a jawhar that can be felt. ولا عرض فيقضى, nor is he a arad that yuqda, how would you say, go away.
Right.
like the color of something can go away. That's the arad. وَلَا ذِي تَرْكِيبٍ أَوْ آلَةٍ وَتَأْلِيفٍ. And nor is he composed of parts that come together. أَوْ مَاهِيَ وَتَحْدِيد. Okay? Nor does he have a limit. So this is the first paragraph. Now, mind you, if someone is an athari and loves the affirmation of the sifat as they are, that's the rest of the section on Aqidah. This is the rest of his section. Okay?
Here, and when I was talking to you about al-kayfiyya, that everything that has a kayfiyya is a jism, which is made up of johar, and it has a'rad, so it's an arad. It's murakkab, so that wala bi tarkib, it has instruments in the ala. Why it's it's mu'allaf min al-ashya. It's created, it's developed and put together from things.
Yep.
So when you said all of that, that audibly negates al-kayfiyya.
100%. And the statement of bila kayf, it goes two ways. It goes a right way and a wrong way.
Right.
Okay. So bila kayf means without any body at all. That's the meaning of bila kayf.
Right.
What we just said. Not bila kayf na'lamuhu, as in not in a how, like the length we don't know, the color we don't know. It's not that we don't know the kayf. There is no kayf. And a narration from Sayyidina Ali, huwa alladhi kayf al-kayf. He's the one who gave the ability for anything to have options. Tall, short, red, green, etc.
Okay, lastly, if you got 15 more minutes, we'll close out, but I want to hit spirituality.
Yes.
The istighatha and tawassul and tabat, that's a whole long discussion. Let's go to the importance, and because you represent yourself, and so do I, and so do they, as people who attribute to a tasawwuf, right? Why and what is a tasawwuf Sufism? Why do you attribute to that? Why do you follow the methodology, and what is it?
A tasawwuf, as we know that Iman is the study of what we believe, and Islam is the study of how to pray and how to fast and how to do things. But then you have ihsan, which is the state in which you do it. And so oftentimes, all of us have experienced that you look at something, you see an image, and then when you do it, the image felt better than the actual action. Or you can imagine a vacation, you're thinking about this vacation, you go there, and you don't feel the same way. Right? The anticipation was greater than being on the beach itself, right? What's my point here is to separate between the outer and the inward. There's an outward and there's an inward. So the inward needs to be studied too. And I like to summarize tasawwuf, and you can tell me if this is a correct summary or not, of identifying and removing all the flaws of the ego, the arrogance, the lustfulness, and regulating it. Lust has to be regulated. Lust is not to be eliminated in Islam. It's to be regulated. Laziness is to be regulated, because sometimes you need to sleep, so it's justified. Sometimes it's not. Everything needs to be regulated. Anger needs to be regulated. Humility, of learning to put the ego down. So that's one half. The second half is the dhikr. And the dhikr is what strengthens your iman. Sidi Ahmed al-Maghili, he said, summary of tariqah is nafila. It's the awrad and the adhkar that we learn and taught and are encouraged to do to increase iman and also put that sweetness inside your heart. So that's two ways you can summarize it. But what I was saying is that before that is that we all experience that there's an outward, but then there's a feeling on the inside. And tasawwuf has come to rectify these feelings. Okay. And a person can be doing Islam on the outside, but he's dominated by lust. So shaitan could lead him astray. Or he's dominated by the feeling of desiring to be famous and known and seen. And if a person doesn't study this, Shaitan will take him all the way up to the Empire State Building and drop him down and be finished. Okay. So that's why the study of your inside, what's happening in here, I mean, it's so important. So that's the first half. The second half is how do we now fill it with Iman? Because tarbiyah without dhikr, it just leaves a person sort of miserable. You need tarbiyah, but you need to taste. You need to taste. And really the difference between this people and those who are sort of against them, you have different perspective because one tasted and one didn't taste.
Hey, I saw a biography just because you just taste, though.
Yeah.
Right? You know, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, قَدْ ذَاقَ حَلَاوَةَ الْإِيمَانِ. And that's قَدْ ذَاقَ. There's a smoke there, right?
Yeah.
That's a tasting, an experience. And you just made me happy by saying that, because, you know, sometimes words come and they give you memories, you know?
Yeah.
I was reading a biography. I don't know what it is, so I got to ask you about it first. They said that among the people you studied with, that you got the chance to study Matan Abi Shuja' with Sheikh Imaduddin Abu Hijla. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. That's true. Sheikh Imaduddin Abu Hijla, may Allah have mercy upon him.
Ameen, ameen.
One of the funnest people, forget you people, to be around of all time. And for people who don't know this, he passed away in COVID. We crossed paths in the year 2010. He became Imam of New Haven Islamic Center.
I remember those days. Yes, I remember those days.
And there he was
teaching. Yale. You was in Yale doing it?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Oh, I got it real good. Okay.
Yep. And he was teaching Book of Aqidah, which he wrote. Okay, summary Book of Aqidah, which he wrote, which had in it also Shafi'i fiqh, and he was teaching Matan Abi Shuja'. So I studied the Aqidah portion with him. And this man was extremely knowledgeable and full of passion. I've never seen a person more passionate. I would say Sheikh Imad, 1A, Imam Amin, 1A2, right? Fully passionate about Aqidah. Okay. And a man who was like a blaze of fire, mashallah. And sometimes fire is not a nice analogy in Islamic literature, but we can say a blaze of light, full of energy.
Why I mentioned that?
Yeah.
Because, you know, he's like the blood of my blood, the flesh of my flesh, the spirit of my spirit. And we spent so many years together. We can laugh all day about the joyous times with Sheikh Imaduddin. But let us recite Al-Fatiha for us. So we say Al-Fatiha. I try not to get choked up, but this one is a happy. He used to say, when we would be studying, he'd say, I don't want you to practice the religion. I want you to taste the religion.
SubhanAllah.
You couldn't wait to get your invitation off, could you?
Huh?
Yeah. You couldn't wait to get your invitation to shake.
I just, you know what I mean? We gotta have a taste of religion here.
It's hard not to imitate him. It's hard.
We will leave an impression on you.
Imitate him.
Yeah.
I say you can't just speak regular and it be imitating him at the same time. Because like Dr. Shadee said, he's full of passion.
He's full of passion. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, so when you said taste, he used to emphasize that fact.
Yep.
Like, no, you got to taste the religion. You have to taste it. It's not the same. So that's a perfect, beautiful description.
Yeah.
And I thank you for illuminating the heart by thinking of my Shaykh Sayyidi, mashallah. You know, he was one of the first non-people from Asada to teach in the house of Habib Umar. To actually hold classes in his house.
SubhanAllah. In whose house?
In Habib Umar's house.
Allahu Akbar. SubhanAllah.
Yes.
And he married from them too, I believe. He married maybe not Ba'alawi, but from Syria.
Yeah, he did. And he's, you know, so yeah, that was just when you said that, the taste. I'm like, wow. Just give me of the importance of tasting the religion. I got all my things that I wanted to really address at this stage, but I saw Imam Naeem writing, which means he got a million things, and I'm gonna leave it to them to if they have. We have a few questions, and I'll quickly give them after if they have something to give. We only have like 2 or 3 questions.
Sure thing.
No, I'm good. You can get to the questions, inshallah.
Imam Faheem?
I'm good, man.
Okay, so one of the question is, what grade, as you were a professor and a teacher, you know, and you run your own institute, and please put all that up. I mean, you can put it in the chat, right? So put
Me?
God on top, yeah, put your podcast, put everything you got going on, put it in, inshallah.
Okay, sure.
We can talk about it before we close, but can you ask what grade would you give, sincerely give, the state of clear Sunni da'wah being advanced in the U.S. right now compared to Wahhabism?
When it comes to long-term tarbiyah in the community, I would give it a solid grade. Long-term tarbiyah in communities, I give it a strong grade, because when we travel around, when I travel around, that's what I see. I see regular Sunnis from Dar Ulooms, from Azhar, studied in wherever. Okay? That's the majority of what I see. But when it comes to being online and debating and trying to do dawah with Christians or in the debate scene or which the debate scene, I think it's going off the rails a little bit and is becoming for show. But opening up a YouTube channel and just talking to people and convincing people of Islam, I would say that's where we got a low grade. And I always say, we Ash'ari, we talk about the love of kalam, but they're the ones doing what the purpose of kalam is. It's like ironic, right? And so I commend that they're doing that, but we should be doing it more even. I mean, we have more tools. Okay, I would say even, and this is maybe a little bit of judgmental, but we also have a certain akhlaq that we have to take, that we have to observe. And sometimes these debate scenes, they go off the rails with akhlaq. And it's like, yeah, I think you made your point, but I would never want to be around a person like you. Right? And I think dawah is converting someone to like you. You are the product of Islam. Does he like you? Right? Yeah, maybe you won the argument, but you're not someone who's going to turn people's hearts. Right? So that's where, so if I was to divide it in these two, I would say one gets a very good grade, the Masjid, the Islamic schools, but the dawah to non-Muslims, talking to non-Muslims online, it's the opposite now. It's the opposite.
Another question, well, we talked about anyway. Do you think there needs to be more of a cross-pollination of Sunni leadership going to teach in underrepresented Sunni communities, or even underrepresented non-Muslim communities for that matter? So between leadership across the board, having a more of a cross-pollination of, these big old words.
Pollination, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that the Habayib provide us a great example of dawah. They never like to do dawah to the uppity elites. They go to dawah to the people who are close to their fitrah. I don't want to say low-hanging fruits, but the people who are closer to their fitrah. And they're a great example of that. And sometimes I feel that the Sufi inclined tend to elitism. They tend to be actually elite. And they tend to almost have become prisoner to the beautiful Sufi aesthetic, where if it's not there, they can't go there, right? If it's not really pretty, they can't go there. If it's not really intellectual, they can't go there. If it's not very cultured, such as qasidas and adhkar, then they can't go there. Okay? And that tends to be, what I'm saying this out of a person out of love, that this is a flaw that some of us have. Okay? And that's one of our reasons, our soup kitchen, the first thing we did before dawah is the soup kitchen, which inshallah someday you'll come to it. But the soup kitchen, it's right in the middle of the really pretty poor part of New Brunswick, where immigrants are trying to make a living, mostly from Honduras, okay, and other Central American nations. So part of tasawwuf that I would love to see revived is not having so much stuff and recognizing the value of not having a lot of dunya. Because I think a lot of the Sufi culture today in the Western world, you need to be rich to do it. It's amazing, right?
The broke guy don't stand a chance.
Right? He doesn't stand a chance. You cannot buy the $50 beads, $100 beads, and the itrs and the ouds that are very expensive, nor take the trip.
Look, maybe you need to go study and they give them to you as a gift.
And so I'm saying this not to blame them for being rich, but to say, let's just keep in mind that the original Sufiya did not go for, they didn't have this. Ibrahim bin Adham, go open that book, Ar-Risala al-Qushayriya. They were simple people. Probably if he was around now, you may not want to be around him, right? And so I like to emphasize the humility and simplicity of the originals that we should bring back, because if you're just another type of, elite, then you're missing the point. And if we have that ethic, then we'd have no problem. And you know who has this ethic and actually doesn't teach tasawwuf officially as a subject? I think Dar Ulooms. Show me a Dar Uloom graduate who walks around like an elitist, right? The guy's walking around with a very simple desi clothes, taking a job in a masjid in the middle of Pennsylvania or Idaho or Ohio that no one would touch, taking a very meager salary, living in an apartment, teaching the kids 9 to 5, Quran. This is the haya of az-zuhd. He never went with the intention of, we are the Sufiya doing zuhd. No. But he's doing it. SubhanAllah, it's amazing how there's the theory, but there's the actual reality. We have the theory of ilm al-kalam in order to go and to take down heretical ideas. But who's actually doing it? The other group is doing it. And we're talking about the theory. Likewise, as Sufiya, and they have zuhud and stuff, but not all the time are we doing it. The Dar Uloom guys, they don't talk about it and they do it. Right? So I say this not out of blaming people, but out of seeing where the khair is so that we can take it. And I think it's not an easy khair to have, which is get rid of a lot of your stuff. Try not to have too much stuff. And it doesn't mean that you have to completely change your life, because that's not practical either. And you're still going to have people with wealth. It's not wrong to have wealth. In fact, you could say it's good to have wealth, but it should be measured. And we should love simplicity. And we should have a daily or a weekly ritual of get rid of your stuff. Don't have too much stuff. Put it in bags, even if it's still usable, and give it to the Goodwill or give it to the fuqara. Just leave it on the curb. People will take it. And empty your house out a little bit. Just little bits at a time. It has a good impact on the heart.
Okay, here's another question. I'll put it up.
What about the ability to keep and bring youth into the masjid? So, yeah, if it's, again, I think it's the same breakdown. when it comes to actual physical community and youth, I think that most of the youth directors you see out there are regular, like Qalam grad or something like that. All right. Regular person who lives as Islam within the four madhabs. But engagement of youth, let's say on TikTok, it's some pretty extreme sectarian types who are more successful at it. Okay. So I think, so it's the same breakdown. But bringing youth and doing youth work, that's the future, whether we like it or not. The youth are our future, whether we like it or not. So we have to, up our game in that.
What's the practical way that you do it? You seem to have a lot of youth around you.
We have a gym in the Masjid, which is always good. But also, I think that the trips to the college campuses is always good. Taking trips, being able to go out and eat with them. And probably it has a shelf life, right? Like, you can get along with the youth when you're 30 and they're 18. Maybe when you're 40 and they're 22. But the youth always has to stay youth as a category. And we drift away from youth, right? So you have to encourage the next generation of youth and say, go and do it. Find your own way to do it without too many rules, right? Because, youth, they like something genuine. If it's something, it's the program that's been controlled by someone above, they see through it. They like something genuine.
Okay, we've reached the end point. Did you put your things up?
I couldn't get in, but I couldn't join the chat. It keeps telling me I have to type in passwords and things like that.
Oh, okay.
But you could just put safinasadi.org.
All right, can you see the thing? Oh, I know what. Let me do this. Sorry, I'm a complete computer.
Yeah, I mean, mine's telling us that StreamYard is showing technical difficulties. So anyone could just write in there in the chat that safinasadi.org.
I got it. I got the direct link. I'm learning. I used to have I despise this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because how I learned that traditional stuff. And one of the younger brothers, he was like, man, you ain't going nowhere. And you're not going to reach the people you need to reach until you get online.
Yeah.
For real, I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And I realized that was a mistake, so what about, so Darul Fats can go in there too, or no?
Yeah, Darul Fats, you'll see it in safinasadi.org. It's one of the subsidiaries.
So can you explain the work you're doing just so between all that so everyone would know what you're doing? What's the purpose?
So if a person was to go to safinasadi.org, you'll see all of what we do, which is divided in a couple of things. Number one thing, we do online classes at arcview.org. Okay. And it's like an ArcView Academy. It's like a virtual academy. You can study even the biggest books of fiqh in the four madhabs. You can study Arabic. And now we have the Sanusi tradition. All the Sanusi books will be taught there. Then in New Jersey itself, we have in NBIC, New Brunswick Islamic Center, we have a seminary there too. Part-time scholarship program where they teach fiqh and aqidah and Arabic language as well. Of course, there's hifz. You can do hifz al-Quran too. And then, of course, one of my favorites is the soup kitchen, which we call La Cocina, which is the kitchen in Spanish, because the majority, 99.9% of our guests that come, we have dinners twice a week now, are Spanish speaking only, hardly speak any English. And then lastly, we have the Nothing But Facts live stream, which most of you probably are already aware of on YouTube. And it's where we reach the majority of people online is through that live stream.
Is that a link? Is that a link? Is that something separate or is it under Safina?
All that is under Safina Sadi.
Tayyip, any closing comments? Imam Naeem, Imam Faheem? Thank you very much for this, giving us the extra 26 minutes.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
sometimes we tend to go way overboard.
That's
Right?
all right.
No, my only comment is that, inshallah, thank you for coming, and also I hope that you can come back to kind of like complete or round off the discussion, especially because I like to hear your breakdown of tawassul and those other related issues.
Oh, sure thing.
And stuff like that.
Sounds good. Inshallah. Inshallah, we'll do that another time.
Yeah, maybe we can make it all Jersey, Sheikh.
Yeah. Maybe we need to do a little tour to stop by Imam Faheem's and then go down to Imam Amin's.
Yeah, because I was talking to Imam John. Actually, I wanted to ask him to come on, man.
You have his number?
Yeah, I have his number. I used to visit his masjid because he's right in the next town over.
Oh,
So-
good.
So maybe you can put a plug in for him as well, and we can bring him on. Maybe we could even do it next week if you can. You put the plug in, tell him
Sure.
the thing, and maybe since we've been talking about the Hanabila, he would love to have that conversation. And that
Very good. And he's my main source. Let me send him a picture of this right now and tell him they would love to have you on.
And that way, if he could do that, that'd give me the chance to read all these Hanbali books. I've read them, but like read them and then have real deeper discussion. As you know, Sheikh Nur Sanders is just, you gotta understand inner city stuff. That's my young buck, right?
Young boy.
And he'll be like, see, that's why, always trying to sun me. No, I'm joking. But so we really need to have a detailed scholarly discussion, even if we don't look at ourselves as scholars.
100%.
What you said. Like, listen, I don't believe in this idea. I totally reject it.
Yeah.
The idea of leave that to the scholars. That would be nice if you were doing it.
That's true.
But you're not leaving it to the scholars. You're discussing it. You're taking positions on it, right?
Yeah.
As if you're the scholar. So the one who's saying that is not a scholar, right?
That's true. Yeah.
We're the imams and we're the shuyukh. I study with sheikhs, and you're not one of them, right? That doesn't mean you don't have any good. But let's not get delusional here, right? And I think the delusionary titling of things that are not real is problematic too, right?
100%.
That doesn't mean you don't have benefit. That doesn't mean, that there's no good. But I think if I just said you wouldn't accept, you are Dr. Shadee Al Masry. No matter how much I learned, no matter how long I studied, right? No matter my chains of narration, I am not a PhD, right? So if I walk around saying Dr. Amin Muhammad, you're going to correct me.
Yeah.
Even if you have adab, you're going to say, why don't you just say Imam or Sheikh? Why are you saying doctor? Whatever you want to call yourself, you're not a PhD, right? Equivalent, in the equivalent sense, I'm not putting you down. I wouldn't get mad because you say I'm not a doctor. I'm not, right?
True.
Why you get mad? Not you. The person would get mad who's making false claims. You're not a sheikh.
That's true.
I know you're not. I know they calling you sheikh. I know you got a nice following. I know you're the imam of the masjid. I know you got your own seminary, but I know what a sheikh is.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean you are not having immense value. And even I remember my teacher, Sheikh Samir, he said something to me. I was like, you should come do da'wah. He said, that's not my job. That's your job. That's your people. Just like that. And I was sitting there like, I couldn't do what you do, even if I tried. It's not my thing. I'm a scholar. This is what I do. Even one time he got sick, and he's a doctor, a real, like a medical doctor. And I said, well, why don't you fix it? He said, the doctor can't fix himself. I need a doctor.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
And he had like a severe flu,
Subhanallah.
right? Which showed me a scholar during that time. Because he was passing out while teaching the lesson. He was teaching the book and just pass out and get back up like after sometimes 3, 4, 5 minute gaps.
Subhanallah.
A little thing, go back. The regular person would have just said, I am sick, please. Like, this is a whole different level. So what I mean by that, I think for us to have that scholarly discussion, even though we are not scholars, because people are having that discussion, at least we can contextualize the discussion so that it doesn't go off the rails.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with, maybe I can start some fitna real quick. Let me go offline, right? What's the influencer, Jake, what's his name?
Brankateller.
What is it?
Brankateller.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce that. Right? Jake.
Yeah.
Jake, you know what I'm talking about, right? He's famous.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
I didn't know who
Jersey.
he was.
Yeah, he's a Jersey guy. He's
Okay,
from
yeah.
South Jersey. Yeah.
So somebody put him together with me. I don't know who it was. I forgot. I have no idea who it was. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
So we were talking. Was it you?
Did I introduce you to? I don't think it was.
You trying to get me to have a conversation with him?
Oh, no, it wasn't me.
Okay.
Maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe it was.
Someone tried to get me to have a conversation. And I said to him, I talked to him, and I said, it's not your field. Like, just from the conversation, I said, it's not your field. And I said, I'm not into showing what you don't know. I said, why don't we just have a conversation about it, correct the errors, then do a thing, right? He said, you're putting me down. I said, I'm not putting you down. If you go online with me.
It was me. Yeah,
huh?
it was me.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I said, if you go online with me, I've been doing this stuff most of my life. You're going to look real bad and no one's interested in that.
Subhanallah.
Right? You're not qualified. It ain't that you're a bad person. You haven't learned. Right? Now, I know you're famous and I know you got your stuff, but there's qualifications and you don't have
100%.
them.
Sahih. Sahih.
If you remember, he got mad at me and stopped talking to me.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. We got to be real with each other.
Yeah.
Especially when we're trying to move forward and solve a problem, right?
And that's why I think more important than what you studied and how many ijazas that you have is whether or not you are continuing to observe mulazama.
Yes.
And you continue every week, every day, every month, whatever cadence, you keep up with scholars. Because you would be embarrassed to say something that would misrepresent them. You know that you're gonna get on the call with them next week after you say something, right? You know they're seeing your work. This is what keeps you on the right track. Number one, keeps you humble. Number two, keeps you from saying something that you're not supposed to say. Fatwas that's way beyond your realm. And number three, you keep learning. You keep learning. And you say, subhanAllah, I stopped going to a school, but I still learn, right? And that's why I was observe mulazama. If someone doesn't do mulazama, I start having doubts.
If you could just translate mulazama real quick.
Mulazama, it means consistently keeping the company. So for example, myself, I have 2-3 shuyukh on and off or take classes in fiqh. At the very least, we just text each other back and forth. And I'm saying the actual shuyukh, like memorize the Quran at age 8 type of shuyukh. Finish the madhab by age 14, 15. Okay. That's what the real type of shuyukh. Not, we are as activists calling to knowledge. That's the type of thing that someone like myself is doing. And can get you maybe to a functional level in reading Arabic, knowing aqidah, and knowing fiqh and usul al-fiqh, and answering some basic questions. You'll be at the very functional level, right?
And haven't you discovered that's necessary for people before they go overseas?
I think it's you waste a lot of time and effort if you're going to go overseas and study the stuff you could have studied from the guy down the road, right? Then because if you're going to go to overseas for 3-4 years anyway, right? You're not going to go for 15 years. Let's say 3-4 years, average person. So why would you go for 3-4 years on intro? Study intro and elementary and middle stuff here. Then you take your 3-4 years and you can go into the advanced stuff, right? And the shuyukh would actually open their door to you because you know things now. They can have the discussions with you. Far better.
And that's your objective there, ArcView and Darul Fatah, right? Is to bring them to a level of competence that they could go and
they'll be competent. They'll be go and hit the ground running. Right. And they'll be able to do basic Imam functions in their household and their community. And when I say Imam, I don't mean praying Eid and Janazah. I mean like answering fundamental questions, teaching people how to make wudu, recognizing fundamental ills of the nafs, knowing the basic adhkar of nafila that can build up a person's iman, being able to answer aqidah questions from atheists and non-believers, and those kinds of things.
Okay, Dr. Shadee, any closing advice? And could you close out with dua?
Oh, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you all for having me.
Wait a minute. Are you coming to Minnesota? No, Minnesota. Michigan.
Actually, I don't think I'm going to make that, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
I can't make that one. Tell me about this organization.
It's trying to do the same thing. This is, they're just a bunch of sincere, the one who runs it, I forget his name. They're sincere people that are just trying to bring Al-Tasawwuf, Al-Sunnah together and do good. I mean, I did it before and I met the person. I was just in Detroit at Dar Rahma for a retreat, and they were there. These are good people, I mean, in general, but they're like, they have a wide outreach of diversity within the umbrella of At-Tasawwuf and Ahl Sunnah.
What's the organization called again?
Sana.
Sunni Alliance of North America.
Yes, Sana.
Yeah, they invited me. I wanted to go, but I don't think I can make it.
Oh, okay.
So,
but because I remember I saw they was talking about who was, and I saw your name there. And to give you an example of your teachers being aware, I was talking to one of them and he says, well, you're going to be in Michigan. Can you do that? I said, what you know about that? Once you go on the internet, you out there, right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. All right, inshallah, can give us some final advice and dua, inshallah.
Well, I'd like you guys to get Imam John on and other people that I think would be great to be part of your discussions. I'm going to send you their names, inshallah.
Okay.
And you have great discussions, great perspectives from them, inshallah. But we need to do the South Jersey tour and end up in Atlantic City, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah. So, Jazakumullah khairan, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruk wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Wa tawasaw bil haqq. Wa tawasaw bis sabr. Wassalamu alaykum.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.